Tuner Nation. So Oklahoma dropped 2 to Texas. You got one, and then you came back and you beat Wichita State 7-0. But I think we go into the rest of the season, and I don't feel like you should lose any more games. But as we saw earlier in the season and in the Texas series, the bats can go cold. And if the bats go cold, how's Oklahoma going to respond? So today I've got Andrew Smith on, and we're going to talk through a little bit of the Texas series and kind of maybe what even we expect going into the BYU series and even the rest of the season. So make sure you guys join the discussion, jump in the comments, and give us your thoughts. But Andrew, how's it going?
It's going all right, man. I mean, always sucks losing to Texas. Sucks losing, but sucks losing to Texas the most. But
Oh, yeah.
that's how it goes.
Yeah, the Texas fans were giving Ron Vickers, Makari Vickers' dad, absolute hell on Twitter for Oklahoma losing to Texas. So
I mean, they love to rag on us saying we're a softball school, and then they beat us. So that's kind of one of our claims to fame. So I mean that's their prerogative as the victors. So it is what it is.
it's funny. I feel like Texas is like Oklahoma State in football. When they win, they don't know how to win.
Yeah,
They don't know how to take it and be just good winners. But
yeah.
I mean, I guess that's part of the rivalry part of it. So
I mean, there's some of that too, but also too, like it's a newer sport for them to be good at. So, they're still kind of becoming softball fans, which honestly is great. It's a good thing for the sport, and you love to see people supporting their women's sports. And but yeah, I mean, it's a challenge when you're the top dog and your rival beats you. So I mean, you just got to kind of take it for a minute.
and it's even better when for the sport itself, a growing sport, when Texas is pretty good every single year and Oklahoma is the top team. Like, it creates, one, your natural rivalry that you already have year in and year out in every other sport. But two, like, when I looked at this game, I thought, oh, well, like, these should be nationally televised games. And I think they got one on ESPN.
They
But
got
like,
two.
these are the kind of games that I think will drive, more
They
today.
got two on ESPN. Then the third one was LHN, which was really unfortunate because that was a hell of a game.
Oh man, those last two games, the 1 to 2, those were, yeah. But Longhorn Network, that's why A&M left the Big 12 originally, was because of the Longhorn Network. So everybody understands it now. All OU fans understand that pain. But kind of looking at some of what happened in that Texas series, OU came into that series red hot against Kansas. I mean, you had 6 wins or 6 runs first game, 17 the second game, and then 7 the third game. And then you come in and you get 5 runs against Texas. You win 5-2, and I felt pretty good at that point. I'm not gonna lie, the whistle and the train horn or whatever it was freaking annoying, but I felt like we were gonna get past it. You come in the second game, you lose 1-2, and then you literally repeat that same process again in the third game. The second game, though, honestly, if it wasn't for half of a second, OU might be losing that game 4-1. So, as I said, bats get cold for Oklahoma. It seems like they're in trouble because we saw this earlier in the year as well. So, kind of want to get your take on that specifically, and maybe for anybody that doesn't understand it, kind of because you explained it to me, break down the obstruction rule. So
Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't think they're in trouble. I'll just say that they're not in trouble. Now, context matters. I said this to you earlier. I think they hyped up the Texas series for themselves too much, and they were simply trying too hard, trying to do too much, and you could see that offensively, swinging at pitches way outside the strike zone, runners in scoring position, pop ups, strikeouts, just things that are seemingly uncharacteristic for them, but characteristic of them when they try too hard. If they're popping up and striking out, that means they're trying to drive the ball out of the ballpark and trying to do too much instead of just hitting it where it's pitched and keeping the train rolling. I mean, you heard Kenzie Hansen talk about how she was going to be ready for Texas no matter what, whether healthy or not. I genuinely think that this has turned into an OU Texas rivalry. Patty famously said a couple of years ago she doesn't see rivals. She doesn't think they have any rivals. I think Mike White's comments last season and that series, the way it went, and then playing them in the national championship as well, really kind of has driven that to become a real rivalry, which I think is great for the sport. And it's always fun for the two universities. And it's even more fun for the whole country when they get to see them on national TV. Um, but I genuinely think that the girls kind of really were just pressing, and I don't think that has any particular bearing on the rest of the season. This team has shown this season and over the course of time that there's no better team at making adjustments and coming back and responding. So I fully expect them to, and they already have responded. It's kind of funny, like they responded with 7 runs against Wichita State, but then Patty was talking about how she wasn't happy with a lot of things offensively. Still, they're still, and going back to a couple seasons ago, like the last couple of seasons, they've gone through time periods like this before where they're really struggling offensively, but they've scratched enough off and they play good enough pitching, defense and pitching to win those ball games. Well, and it's funny because normally they're able to take advantage of errors and walks and hit bats and things like that again by the other teams. And Texas just didn't give them as many of those opportunities as you would have thought, especially coming into the series where Texas is one of the worst, if not the worst, defensive team in the NCAA softball. So, kind of going back into leading into the obstruction, that's exactly why you send Maya Bland there, is because you force them to have the perfect relay, which it nearly wasn't. It kind of turned into one because kind of the obstruction is meant to say you cannot block the base or plate without giving the runner a path to it. Okay. So essentially, it kind of means that at least half of the plate needs to be open. So they have somewhere to go. And the catcher originally set up properly, giving a space on the backside of the plate, but then the throw takes her up the line and kind of into the path of the runner. But because she's making a play on the ball, it's kind of like if, say, for example, there's a runner on first and there's a grounder to second. If the runner hits the second baseman as the second baseman is trying to make a play on the ball, the runner's out. That's also obstruction. So the defender has to be able to make a play on the ball. It's not their fault that the ball took them into the path. And it's also due to the timing too. So if the ball comes in later, she can't go up the line and then wait on the ball. That's obstruction. So because of the timing of the play, and then also too, if she drops the ball, then the runner is then still safe. So heck of a relay from the outfield. Great play by the catcher. She held on. Unfortunate. You have to look at it, ask for obstruction if you're Patty, just to be sure. Because why not? Like, it's the end of the game. It's kind of like, did somebody leave early on a home run? Like, those are the rules, and you're able to check it. So you may as well check. But I don't think it's going to have too much bearing on the rest of the season. I would hope you'll assume you'll probably get a shot at Texas, at least in the Big 12 championship tournament. Possibly not, depending on maybe if it's Oklahoma State and Oklahoma State beats them or whatnot. But you'd hope you get another shot at them. And like I said, this series was absolutely my pick for the national championship series in Oklahoma City. I think these are two of the best teams in the country, so would not shock me to see them get another 3-game set. Are they going to be able to beat us in Oklahoma City 2 out of 3 times? I doubt it, but again, having that memory of being beaten, and then the possibility of pressing too hard and trying too hard is definitely there. So it's concerning in that sense, but I'm not worried.
I understand that. And I guess I'm not worried. I guess I would get worried if they go through another stretch where they're having a hard time hitting the ball. And like you said, maybe it was a little bit more pressure than just, hey, like they just
And
couldn't
it's
hit.
self
Like,
pressure.
yeah,
I certainly think it's self pressure. I want to be clear on that. I don't think it's they were afraid of the moment or whatever else. I think they just built up this series in their minds because it was Texas and going back to the series last year with Mike White's accusations. Um, it just kind of gotten built up, and then you hear Kenzie Hansen's comments saying she was going to be ready. I think they really built this up, and they just kind of put too much on themselves to perform, and that can happen. And this team has done that before. When they had the win streak going before, you saw that last year or 2 years ago when it was whatever last year when we lost to Texas. You kind of saw the longer the win streak got, the more pressure that they kind of felt every single game. It just kind of stacked. So it kind of does happen, and they're not unsusceptible to pressure, but usually it's self pressure that they put on themselves.
yeah, and I'm almost wondering if that happens in the World Series, and if that happens in the World Series, is playing a borderline home game enough to kind of turn the tide there with that pressure? I don't know, because we've seen them lose at home when they put a little too much pressure on themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen him lose in games in Oklahoma City, right? So like it's not unheard of. It's not crazy to think that it's possible, but I do think that this team is still the most talented team in softball this season, um, and it's not to the level that we saw last year or the year before. But that doesn't mean that they're still not extremely talented and extremely capable. Um, you just got to trust Patty that she's going to get it figured out and get it right. And this team generally shows up in the postseason. Like the entire regular season is a buildup to the postseason. Um, so does this mean anything for them? Yeah, probably it does. But does that mean it means so much that they're gonna carry this with them the rest of the way and drag them down? No, I don't think so.
So, how do you expect this team, or what would your expectations be for this team to respond this weekend against BYU? They start tonight at 6 p.m. And they play on Friday at 6 and Saturday at 1. For me, like I would want to see. I mean, the defense I feel like has played about as well as they could have all season, right? I think I want to see a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball, and I want to see them get those bats going again and maybe just settle down a little bit. It's at home, and I don't feel like BYU is a team that you should struggle with. So, what do you expect to see from this team?
I mean, I expect to see us do our thing. Does that mean I expect crazy run rolls or going off? No, not necessarily. That I really haven't watched BYU at all, so I really don't know what to expect from them. But um, I've got a little bit of. I think that we've pitched well enough this season. Like, and it's so funny because, like, I think our fans are so spoiled. They think that when a pitcher gives up 2 or 3 runs a game, that they're washed or they're not elite. And it's like, guys, like that's normal. That we're just not used to that. That's actually how the game works. Like in baseball, for example, a starting pitcher is really good if their ERA's in the threes. Uh, college softball, it's usually around like over 1 is what pretty good to elite ERAs look like. And that's where we are. And sometimes you don't always have your best stuff, and what makes a pitcher elite is how they respond and how they grind through innings when they don't have their A stuff. And I think this staff has really done a good job of that. Now, occasionally, in moments, they've given up maybe a home run that has been for unfortunate timing. But that's what makes diamond sports so great. That's why we watch them as end up on the wrong side of it, and that's just the way it goes. Um, like I said, I don't think my expectations for this team has changed. I fully expected us to lose at least some games this year. We've lost more to this point than I thought we would have, but honestly, our loss total, it wouldn't shock me if we drop one or two more games, even maybe up to three more games this season. Um, and I don't think that still doesn't mean they can't win a national championship.
So I look at some of the other teams that potentially give Oklahoma problems this year, and
Mhm.
like you said, there's probably a chance we could see Texas in probably one of the final matchups in the World Series.
Mhm.
I brought it up earlier. I said, what about Stanford, right? Because, we obviously struggled a little bit with Stanford last year. They got Nyjah Kennedy, which you said, like, they're pretty much riding her. And I was like, well, how's their hitting going? Like, are they better there? Like,
They are better.
I look
They
at
are
Duke.
better offensively, but
Yeah.
they pretty much have to throw Kennedy. They don't have much else.
Yeah.
Now, in a 3-game series, you're gonna see her 3 times if you're Oklahoma, which honestly bodes well for you. Like the more you see her, the better you're gonna be. Like the more chances you're gonna have to get her. So, and their defense is pretty good. It's not like incredible. I mean, I would say really solid, but it's not like top tier. To my knowledge, I haven't watched them as much, but they do play really good defense. But I mean, just put the bat on the ball and she throws hard enough, it's going to get hit hard. So,
Yeah, and then I look at other teams, which OU's played Duke this year, and Duke's been up
mhm.
there. You've had LSU at the top
Who
at one
lost?
point.
Duke lost to Campbell last night.
Yeah, I saw that. Guess nobody's subject to lose games. And then you've got
Hey,
Oklahoma State, Tennessee. Do any of these teams outside of Texas potentially really scare you going into the postseason?
scare me? No. Um, Oklahoma State's Oklahoma State is one of those teams where it's kind of like Texas. I could see, especially with the Kelly Maxwell stuff, I could see that series being really interesting. And now, um, there's two types of pitchers that Oklahoma usually struggles against, and that's the high heat, and it's the I guess there's three. So and it's not saying that if you're this type of pitcher, they're gonna struggle against you, but like there's the high heat Nyjah, there's the screwball kind of style pitcher, which you remember Haley Dulcini last year. And then there's the really low drop balls that are hard firm drop balls. If they're getting those low strikes, so that kind of depends on the umpire, which Lexi Kilfoyle is. So I could certainly see us struggling in that matchup as well. Oklahoma State's, but again, they're not a team that's good defensively. Their offense is streaky, so it could be very well another Texas-like series where if we struggle and they get a couple of big home runs, that could spell disaster for the series, not for the season. But and that's just the way it goes. But again, that's at home. So that's good. I think that's going to be a benefit to us. Um, but I don't think any team actually scares me. But there's certainly ones that you can look at and more than just the matchup on paper and go, okay, what's the underlying storylines here that um, the Oklahoma State, it's Bedlam. It's usually a great series, but then you add the Kelly Maxwell stuff, and and Kenny's comments about her last year. They're going to want to really win that for her. So are they pressing again? Those sorts of things. So
Yeah. So I would assume at this point where Oklahoma sits, they're probably going to get home field advantage. That's how it works in the Big 12
so the
series,
top
right?
top eight seeds host super regionals and supers.
Okay, and how does it work for the Big 12 championship?
Oh,
Because I thought I
that's
saw
in
something on Twitter
no, the
about
Big 12
how.
championships at Hall of Fame Stadium.
Okay, so it's a race for first, I guess, is what they were referring to.
And so
I'd have to
the
go.
Big 12 regular season also has a trophy, and that's what usually determines the winner of the Big 12.
Okay.
So there's a Big 12, the regular season, and then there's the tournament. So usually when you say somebody won the Big 12, you're referring to the regular season.
Okay.
Because then if you say they won the Big 12 tournament, then that's the tournament. And that happened a couple of years ago where OU won the Big 12, and then Oklahoma State won the Big 12 tournament, and they tried making the claim that they won the Big 12. It's like, no, nice try, but I mean, you won the tournament, congrats, and there's a trophy for that. But there's also a trophy for winning the Big 12, which there isn't in other sports, and I think that's where the confusion kind of came in. There's like, say, football, for example, there's no regular season champion. There's no trophy for it. So like that's where people kind of get confused on the sense of like there's no regular season champion, if you will, but there's a trophy and they are crowned the champion of the Big 12. So yeah, that's kind of what you're looking at is the race for the Big 12 championship for the regular season.
Now, the final thing I really want to touch on is because I see a lot of this slander on Twitter, and you've even seen Alex Thoracco address it multiple times on the Locked In podcast, but it's Nicole May. I don't know what it is with Oklahoma fans, but they are just so hard on her, and she just lost her first Big 12 game against Texas. So who has been, in your opinion, the best pitcher for Oklahoma, I guess, outside of Maxwell? Because I feel like the easy answer is Maxwell. And then, why should Oklahoma, why are Oklahoma fans so hard on May? Because that's something that I don't understand.
Because she's not an overpowering dominant pitcher that we are accustomed to having. She's a pitch to contact pitcher that does allow some hits. She pitches because she's a contact pitcher. She goes for soft contact, so she's on the edges of the zone. And then occasionally, if she misses inside, it usually gets hit hard. Why they're so obsessed with hating on her is beyond me. I think also it stems from her freshman year, also too getting hit really hard by UCLA, and then the following year also being hit hard by UCLA. So there was, and UCLA's kind of at the time was the standard for like if you can't beat UCLA, then you're not elite. And so there, I think it was just and here's the other thing. Sometimes teams just have your number. UCLA had Nicole May's number, and Patty had no other options but to go to Nicole May because Jordy Ball was hurt. And so was Hope Troutwine. But so she was trying to give her some rest and trying to sneak one more game out of Nicole May. Ended up having to go to Hope Troutwine to finish that game and the next game. But then Nicole May pitched great in the championship series. So, man, she's just not the overpowering dominant style. Like she is dominant. Let me say that she's not the overpowering dominance that they're traditionally used to seeing. Like it's kind of funny. Like I think she throws harder than by like in the comparison, but I don't know if you watch the baseball team much. Like Grant Stevens is one of our weekend starters. I mean, he only throws like 90, 89, 90, but pitches great. Soft guy, pitches a contact. Get some strikeouts here and there in big moments, but like And people were hating on him the other day too because he was nibbling at the edges and got it hit hard a couple times. And that's just the way it goes when you don't have overpowering stuff. You're not a big strikeout pitcher, which is what Oklahoma's accustomed to seeing, especially when you have other ones on the roster as well. But I mean, I think they've all shown at certain points, really good times. I think Nicole May's had her moments. Kirsten Deals pitched really well at times. I think Kirsten has had a shorter leash when in the moments where she's not been pitching well. But I think it's not in her starts usually. It's been like a couple times she's come in relief. So she hasn't had the chance to, I guess, to kind of get hit really hard in those moments. But I still think Nicole's been probably our second best pitcher. But Kirsten's pitched really, really well this year. And Keeney's been really good too at moments. I mean, she had a couple of times, but I mean, everybody's been hit hard a couple of times this year. So
Yeah, and Deal
and
struck out
Peyton
9.
Monticelli is kind of a wild card. Like she can be a little bit wild, but man, I mean, she's tough to hit.
Yeah, and Deal struck out 9 hitters over 5 innings.
Mm-hmm.
Wichita
Against a
State
pretty
game.
good offense.
Yeah,
Wichita State has some hitters, so I'm really excited about her future. So
I guess like in the thing, and I think what a lot of people questioned, because I did see people kind of asking questions after Oklahoma in the Texas game. Patty Gasso changed up the pitcher 4 times in that second game.
Yeah,
like I didn't understand what was going on. I was having a hard time following it. I'm like, wait, is it because they're not pitching well? She doesn't like what she's seeing? Is it matchups? Like it
could be a combination
of
of things. It could be a combination of things. It could be, you don't want to overuse Kelly. So because she just pitched on Friday, so you don't want to overuse her. And then like you could tell she was kind of tiring, so you want to get her out. And then sometimes it's like you bring in a pitcher for just a couple of hitters. Sometimes, hey, they don't look very sharp. Let me not get into a hole that we can't get out of because I left them in too long. So like they're I don't know the specific reasons, but it could be any of those factors there. It could be matchups. It could be they just I don't like what I'm seeing from them. And also too, like, hey, I like this matchup, but maybe this umpire strike zone doesn't match up with their pitching style. So I'm going to see what they're capable of doing. And if they're, getting the calls, then I'll leave them in. If not, then I've got to make a change. So lots of factors.
Yeah, it was so odd. I don't think as long as I've watched baseball or softball, I don't think I've seen somebody change their pitcher 4 times in one inning like that. It was so I did and it's not even that like, a pitcher gave up a couple hits, time to switch, that just continued to happen. No, it was like, all right, they pitched twice, time to swap them out. It was just so odd to me. But
it wasn't that odd to me. I'll just say that. It wasn't that surprising based off of because I'm trying to remember like exactly what I saw, but I just remember seeing like I remember thinking like, yeah, I probably would have made this change too.
Okay. Well, I think the moral of the story is all the Nicole May haters just need to sit down, go away, go back in their caves, go back to hating Todd Bates in football.
I mean, I just don't understand how you hate on somebody who's legitimately been a key cog in winning 3 straight national championships.
I feel like it's because, and I think you kind of explained it a little bit, but like, and sorry, the dog's being crazy. She just started crying for some reason. I think it's because when we see Oklahoma start to give up a lot of runs, or hey, like 2 or 3 runs were earned in an inning against us, I think it's usually Nicole May that's in those positions. But I think you explained it. Like she pitches a little bit softer, maybe try to get that contact right. So maybe that's why. Like sometimes,
but I don't even think it's always Nicole May. I mean, like 2 or 3. Like I mean, sometimes it's like I think when she gives up runs, it is maybe more of a rally versus like Maxwell say it's a home run. And so it feels quicker and then like the bounce back's quicker. Whereas like May, it's maybe a little bit more sustained through an inning. That's a possibility, but I don't think. I mean, that's just different styles of pitching.
Yeah. Well, as I said, Nicole May haters they just need to go away. They need to go hide in their holes. And
She needs to be appreciated for what she's done for us.
you know what? She can just go pitch some shutouts in the World Series, and
Hey,
that should hopefully
absolutely love to see it. Love
that
to
should
see
put him
it.
away. But hey, well, Andrew, I appreciate you coming on the
Of
show.
course.
Tell everybody where they can find you at on the Twitter bird.
Sooner Soup Guy. His face a bit old.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Guys, if you have not already, go ahead and hit that like and hit that subscribe button. Because listen, I got some bills to pay. And as you can see, dogs that are needy. So I got to go figure out what she needs. But appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see y'all next time.